to end 4 years of Indian warfare on the plains. But the village in Custer sites is not a camp of hostile warriors. Instead, it is a camp led by Black Kettle, a chief of the Cheyenne. Black Kettle has worked for peace because he and his people know all too well the horrors of war. For them, another bloody episode is about to unfold along the icy banks of the Washita. The Great Plains of North America in the early 1800s. It is a land of seemingly endless horizons and enormous herds of bison. This is the home of the Cheyenne.
The Cheyennes called themselves the people. They followed the great buffalo herds, numbering perhaps 50 million. And the herds gave them sustenance, but it also gave them wealth, and it gave to them a warrior tradition of power.
Yet, in 1858, 10 years before the attack at Washita, a single event is about to turn the Cheyenne world upside down: the discovery of gold. By 1859, as many as 100,000 settlers and gold seekers are living, mining, and building in what would become known as Colorado Territory. It is a land the Cheyenne and Arapaho consider to be theirs.
Our interpretation is he's a spider. The white man's a spider that's taken over everything. And this web's gonna cover our lands. He's not gonna stop.
Most settlers in Colorado view the Cheyenne as a warlike people, an obstacle standing in their way.
You'll see statements, well, the Indians really aren't using the land the way it's supposed to be used. I mean, they're not farming it, they're not building buildings, they're just out there roaming around. It was meant by God to till, to harvest the fruit of the land. It's God's will, and these Indians are in the way.
Four years before the attack at Washita, November 29, 1864, near Sand Creek in southeastern Colorado Territory. Just before dawn, some 800 men of the 3rd Colorado Cavalry launch a surprise attack on sleeping Cheyenne and Arapaho camps. The assault is the latest in a series of violent clashes between the military and Plains warriors. The volunteer soldiers have been authorized by Governor John Evans to kill Indians considered to be hostile. Black Kettle, one of 44 Cheyenne chiefs, is at Sand Creek.
Black Kettle was a Cheyenne chief. It's their responsibility to take care of the elderly, the orphans, the widow, and anybody that is disabled. This is what Black Kettle's encampment consisted of.
Black Kettle is able to escape, but almost 200 Cheyenne and Arapaho, many of whom are women and children, are slaughtered.
There are many stories that were told by some of the troops who had to testify before Congress, and many of them revealed the kinds of atrocities that today would be declared as war crimes.
Incensed by the massacre at Sand Creek, Cheyenne warrior societies launch an all-out war of terror on the plains. The society known as Dog Soldiers leads the fight. Their revenge is depicted in a series of drawings done by the Dog Soldiers themselves.
Hotametaneyo, Mose tasit omatayo tsu, Tisi shiwatamo eoksi, Nito kashkune, Heneyo, Mahaksio tamai, Ti shiwatamane taos, Newa netkivio, Na Mose omatayo tsu, Chito hotametaneyo, Not, Mutasa newas, Asit, Ki, Ewa, Hot, Apo Teva,
Black Kettle has been an advocate for making peace with the government. But now the Dog Soldiers blame him for the massacre at Sand Creek.
Everybody's worst fears are realized. The war faction among the tribes had repeatedly said, you can't trust the white man, you can't trust the white man. And look what happened, Sand Creek. Well, that leads to, of course, the triumph of the war faction upon the Cheyennes, the Arapahoes, the Kiowas, the Comanches. Now, in fact, all the tribes of the Great Plains unite in a war against the whites because of the Sand Creek massacre.
(1866). Under pressure from terrified settlers, the government takes action. With the Civil War recently ended, the Army is reorganized into an Indian fighting force.
In charge of field operations is the new commander of the 7th Cavalry, George Armstrong Custer, the dashing boy general of the Civil War, one of the great cavalry heroes of the war.
Among the soldiers in Custer's command is Major Joel Elliott. He too is a seasoned Civil War veteran who had once been left for dead on a battlefield. But for all its experience in the Civil War, the Army knows nothing about fighting the Cheyenne or other Indians. In columns too long, on horses too heavy, and supply wagons too slow, these veterans of the Civil War are facing a very different adversary.
And of course, the main problem is trying to bring them to battle at all, to catch them. They blend into the countryside, they vanish quickly. The Army is humiliated. This is the Army that had fought the Civil War. This is the Army that had defeated Robert E. Lee.
For the moment, the greatest threat to the Cheyenne is not the slow-moving army. It is the fast-moving railroad.
And when they seen these railroad tracks and trains coming, they knew that these people are never ever going to stop coming.
The speed of the railroad dramatically increases the number of settlers moving west. Most are farmers seeking to put down permanent roots. The government entices them to go west with the promise of 160 acres of free land.
This goes back to the very beginnings of our country. The right to own land, the right to actually have a piece of something. It's absolutely their right to be there and to own that piece of property, and it goes right to the core of our American being.
But this piece of property on the southern plains is land the Cheyenne and other tribes consider theirs, the source of their food and shelter. Without it, they will die. October 1867, Medicine Lodge Creek, Kansas. Under pressure from humanitarian groups to bring peace to the frontier, the government offers a treaty with the Cheyenne and other Southern Plains tribes. The Medicine Lodge Treaty promises regular payments of food, weapons, and clothing. In exchange, the tribes agree to move to the newly established Indian Territory, south of the Arkansas River, in what is now Oklahoma. In spite of the Sand Creek Massacre, Black Kettle is among the Cheyenne chiefs to accept the terms of the treaty.
It is mind-boggling that Black Kettle continued to strive for peace. He did say that it was difficult for him to trust the white man again, but nonetheless he did.
If anything, the Medicine Lodge Treaty only intensifies the violence on the plains. The Dog Soldiers continue their raids throughout central and western Kansas. By the autumn of 1868, patience in Washington is wearing thin. The Army is directed to make war on the Cheyenne people. General Philip Sheridan lays out an unprecedented campaign to strike the Cheyenne when they are most vulnerable, in the dead of winter.
Hit the Indians in their encampments and keep them insecure, to impoverish them and force the warriors to come in, or else their women and children would starve.
Sheridan entrusts George Armstrong Custer with the command of the 7th Cavalry and charges him with the primary assault of the winter campaign. November 1868. While Custer scours the plains, as many as 6,000 Cheyenne, Arapaho, Kiowa, Comanche, and Plains Apache make their winter camps along the Washita River in Indian Territory. Most believe the soldiers will not come, at least not until spring.
In fact, some had said, well, they never attacked during the winter. They almost gained some assurance from the weather. It was so cold.
Among the villages on the Washita are Black Kettle and his people. The Dog Soldiers are still angry with Chief Black Kettle about Sand Creek. They offer him no protection. Black Kettle is forced to take his people and settle far to the west of the other encampments on the Washita, a position that leaves them vulnerable to an attack.
He took his band then beyond the Arapaho camp and found a good spot, and that's where he was when Colonel Custer's scouts found his village.
November 26, 1868. A scouting party led by Major Joel Elliott discovers tracks in the snow. Elliott believes he is on the trail of an Indian war party. Custer and Elliott follow the tracks to a village along the Washita.
The general plan was to employ the hours between then and daylight to completely surround the village from all sides, and at daybreak, or as soon as it was barely light enough for the purpose, to attack the Indians from all sides.
But the village Custer has found is not that of the war party. It is that of the peaceful Black Kettle. It has been nearly 4 years to the day since the slaughter of his band of Cheyenne at Sand Creek. Earlier that evening, Black Kettle had called a council. They had heard that soldiers were in the field and decided to move their lodges to a location near the other Indian encampments down the Washita. Black Kettle's wife, medicine woman later, who was wounded 9 times at Sand Creek, urges them to move at once.
Well, toward the end of the meeting, the men inside that lodge decided that no, they didn't want to move. It was late at night, It was brutally cold, and they would wait until dawn the next day.
For Black Kettle's band, dawn is too late. Just before sunrise on November 27th, Custer launches a surprise attack.
Custer realizes that if he's going to be able to inflict maximum damage upon the Indians, he's going to have to catch them by surprise. So he's determined upon a dawn attack when they're asleep in their village, a dawn attack when they're completely unprepared, a dawn attack when their women and their children will be the most vulnerable. It's total warfare at its worst.
All the elders and the young kids and the women folks, they ran toward the Washita River. And there was ice, thin ice on the edge of the Washita. Their legs got cut by the ice, or arms when they would slip.
Custer is informed that women and children are being killed. He orders his men to stop the killing and to bring all women and children in as prisoners. Unlike at Sand Creek, some Cheyenne are able to fight back. Many years later, an elderly Cheyenne man named Magpie remembers grabbing a gun and running for cover.
As he was running, he could hear hoofbeats of a horse behind him. Whirled around and just in time quickly fired his single-shot pistol and hit the stomach of this rather huge soldier on this horse.
On this day, the Cheyenne are unprepared for the soldiers' dawn attack. By most accounts, it takes less than 20 minutes for Custer to win control of the camp. Among the dead are Chief Black Kettle and his wife.
Black Kettle and his wife was my grandpa's relative. They got on horseback, they were riding both. They got shot down.
After the attack, Custer realizes some of his men are missing. Cheyenne oral tradition, handed down by a Washita survivor, tells of the fate of Major Joel Elliott and 17 of his men.
And she said about that time while the rest of the Cheyenne warriors came from downstream and they started fighting these soldiers. And she said, we heard that they killed every one of those soldiers that were chasing us. And that was Major Elliott and his men.
Custer loses 22 men in the fighting. 13 are wounded. He claims to have killed 103 Cheyenne warriors. The Cheyenne say 40 men, women, and children are killed in the attack. 53 survivors, all women and children, are taken prisoner. Custer orders everything in Black Kettle's camp burned.
One soldier I know of talked about this beautiful dress. So beautiful, he hated to throw the dress on the fire. As he thought about it, he eventually said, "Oh well, orders are orders." He threw the dress on the fire.
And in a final, crushing blow, Custer orders the Cheyenne's 875 ponies rounded up and shot.
That animal was such a significant animal. Just like the buffalo, they were equal.
It's not just punishment, it is to take away the means by which these Indians can live and raid. Kill their horses, well then they're at a loss.
(1869). Less than 1 year after Washita, the dog soldiers led by Tall Bull are defeated at Summit Springs in Colorado. That same year, the Transcontinental Railroad links the nation from east to west.
Total war against the Cheyennes was absolutely effective. They were broken, and they were subdued, and they were forced onto the reservation. There would be other outbreaks, but the Cheyenne would never be a formidable force again on the Southern Plains. But they'd have their revenge on Custer and his 7th Cavalry many years later at Little Bighorn.
Today, Washita is a place where the common history of all is forever whispered by the wind. It is a place to experience the open horizons the Cheyenne so cherished, and to walk in the peaceful footsteps of Chief Black Kettle. It is a place to contemplate the price of progress and the cost of peace, and to remember those who by choice or by chance were center stage when life changed forever on the Southern Plains.
It is hollow ground for all those who died there, including the soldiers who lost their lives there. And we truly feel that way about it.